Hey, AfterBuzzers, we are here covering Season 4 of Orange is the New Black, Episode 11, People Persons, and Episode 12, The Animals, starts right now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Get animals, trap, 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 till the cage is full. The cage is full, the day is new, and everyone's waiting, waiting on you, and you've got time.
Oh my, that's the orchestra.
Every time.
Wow.
I tried really hard that time, too.
That was really impressive. As we get closer to the end of the season, I think everyone tuned out. But I'm really proud of us.
How does he do it every time? I think Emma was going to win. I'm like, damn.
That was pretty amazing.
But yeah, that was pretty good.
That was pretty amazing, ladies. So, my gosh, before we get started, I'm Scott Moore. You can find me on the Twitter at sman80. That's sman80. And the lovely ladies to my left are...
I'm Kanika Lal. You can follow me on Twitter at Kanika Lal.
I'm Sterling Cates, and you can find me on the Twitters and the Instagrams at Sterling Cates.
Hey y'all, I'm April Whisenhant. You can find me everywhere at April Whisenhant, and I also have the chat up because we want to hear what you thought about the craziness.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, the shiz is getting real now.
And
It
real
got
dark.
real.
I mean,
Yeah.
everyone kept saying, okay, the last three episodes is where it gets dark and crazy and insane, and people were saying that in the comments last week too, like, can't wait for you guys to get to 11 and 12, and they were not kidding.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
I told April earlier this week, I was like, I kind of want to watch 13 and just not.
I did too. No, I actually did that. It was like, it started rolling on 13, and I'm like, oh, it's an hour and like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait. I'm probably going to go home tonight and watch it because I've been waiting.
Yeah.
I know.
It's been
Man,
forever.
I cannot even imagine how it's all gonna end.
There's just so many loose ends that need to be figured out.
It just got so dark so fast.
I was disturbed. I was
So real.
today at work. I was like supposed to be writing about like the Kardashians, but I could not think about like the scenes in my mind today. It was so
There's
disturbing.
more important things to talk about.
There
Right?
There are more. I know, because usually we start and say what
Like
were your
Litchfield.
overall thoughts and everything, and I'm like, but we're all on the same page here.
Yeah.
That was just insane.
Right.
I mean, I don't even, like, where do we even begin with all this?
I mean,
Suzanne.
let's dive into 11.
Right? I feel like she's the catalyst for everything that happened in 11
That's
and
so
12.
true, actually.
She really
Yeah.
is. That's true.
You make a point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's her, and you know, when I was just like, oh my god, my mind is boggled.
Yeah.
Between the CEOs, between Humps and all the horrible things he's doing, and just Piscatella, like even the way everything's being run right now.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and then you get a little bit more of the backstory of Suzanne as an adult, and you know, then you're dealing with the questioning, and I mean, it just goes on and on and on until the awful stuff at the end of 12. But
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. So should we start with Suzanne?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like this whole series been wondering why Suzanne is there,
Yeah.
what'd she do? But now that I know, I don't want to know.
No.
That was devastating.
And it just makes me feel so bad for her because it's like she didn't, you can tell obviously she didn't do anything that she thought was wrong. Now, like, of course the four of us know that what she did, like bringing a young kid to your apartment,
Yeah. by
shouldn't
herself.
do that obviously.
Yeah.
But you can tell she didn't know, and it's just sad to see that she's in prison with all of these other people for something that she didn't do. And just the fact that like this little boy fell off of her balcony. It was just
I know.
I was surprised that they went there, because that's what I was saying before. I thought that they were just gonna play it as something like, oh, she's in jail because she took this kid to her apartment and it was like kidnapping or something. I didn't know it was they were gonna take it there.
That's what I thought too, or she was, I mean, I guess I was going to say accused because it would be awful to talk about a minor, but like accused of some sexual deviance with a kid because he was by himself and then he went and told his parents something that didn't actually happen.
Right.
That's what I was thinking too. I mean, even that's dark. But then to go with what actually happened, and it was like, oh, man.
She reminded me of Lolly a lot.
Yeah.
Because you see this, she actually was a people person. She is a people person. She was
Yeah.
Employee of the Month.
Oh, my God.
She
That
did
whole
her-
intro,
right?
the Shopper Emporium, though, that was
Yeah.
so
That was amazing.
great.
It was. She did her best to
Yeah.
greet every customer, but I
Right.
think she kind of let her insecurities and her mind take over. That, what am I going to be doing all alone?
Right.
She has a roommate, apparently,
Yeah.
who takes care of her every
Well, it's her
single
Well, that's her sister.
Oh, her sister.
Yeah, her
Right,
sister.
right.
Yeah, so I think, you know, there is definitely, there's some definite issues that she has, and she's, as she said, I'm a young 28-year-old.
I'm a young 28.
I'm not ready for this yet.
Yeah. So, you know, there was definitely things there, and we've kind of seen it all along when she had her parents in some of the previous seasons, and we could see that she definitely has, you know, some issues there. Yeah. And this was, what I got, it was like one of the first times she was ever left
by herself. Yeah.
You know, her sister, and I could understand that too. Her sister's got a cute boyfriend, and they want to go out for the weekend to the beach house and actually have some fun. And then
he was
have
actually cute.
Sister.
He was cute.
You know, so it was like one of those things, and you could really just start to see like, oh God, okay, so what's gonna happen?
Well,
here?
and she tried to take her Grace's advice, and she went and tried to make friends, and everyone just gave her strange looks when she basically greeted them like she was at the start.
Well, when she's at the park.
Welcome to the park. Welcome to the park.
And I think that was sort of the thing, is that she could relate to kids. Because she had that childlike mentality of just being very innocent and pure and wanting to reach out and have friends. So the people that could relate to her were kids. I mean, I was just watching that whole time. I was like, oh, this is awkward. And it was making me feel uncomfortable when she told him to come back to the house for popsicles.
Yeah, I know. Popsicles on all things.
No.
But her intentions were innocent.
They were.
They were
of course.
malicious.
But that's what and this is like digging a little deeper than I really need to, but I'm like, why didn't her family, not that, of course she's not insane or anything like that, but it seems like they could have gone a different route other than jail, because we definitely know that she has some sort of mental issues every now and then. So it's like I'm just wondering why they didn't go a different route than like, okay, you're going to jail. Unless they didn't want her put into, I mean, I hope she wouldn't be put into some sort of institution for that, but I guess she may have been.
You know, and who knows what actually happened, because we haven't gotten, I was going to say, the whole story as far as what happened afterwards. What did they uncover as far as how they blamed her, and because he was there,
and you can only imagine what that family would have done, you know, in that situation, like how they would have fought for her punishment or whatever.
Exactly.
Do you think they leave the ending of the story untold for a reason? Because like even Blanca's story wasn't completely finished.
No, because then they can kind of follow up with it later.
It's up to us to interpret, right? I hope they finish it, because we're going to be thinking.
It was us to interpret, and then a little bit of what's going to happen down the line that they can read.
Maybe we'll get more later in future seasons.
Yeah, there's 2 more seasons. We got a long way.
So because Blanca's is another one that was sort of like we said, it was left kind of ambiguous there of like why all of a sudden was the old lady scared. But anyways, there's a lot going on in this episode, and you know that was a big key to that. And you know, she back to present day, she's been trying to still get the love and affection of Kukudio, and that hasn't gone well. You know, after Kukudio basically left her, we find out, was that this episode or
last episode?
Yeah, that we find out that, you know, Tasty wants her to stay away. You know, she's like, no, she's not good for you. And that's the thing I love about Tasty. She takes care of her girls. You know, she takes care of Suzanne.
Yes.
Tasty's the best.
She takes care, you know, of everybody. And
now Caputo,
yeah, exactly. So she's basically telling her like, stay away, don't get caught up in that, but she still wants that love and affection.
Yeah. Right. But Suzanne is smart enough whenever Kukudio approaches her, and she's like, oh, so we're even now, right? She's like,
which also that's not how it works.
Exactly.
Either. Oh my God, no. Talk about unhealthy.
She's like, you're not good with people. I was like, well, neither really are you.
Yeah, talk about the unhealthy relationship there. Now we're even.
Right.
So.
But she was like, you know, smart enough to be like, I need to stay away from you right now. And she seemed, you know, like she was going down a good path. But then, of course, when people just drive her nuts and put her in these situations, I mean, what do they think's going to happen?
Exactly. She can't quite handle that.
Yeah.
That happens. But yeah, that was like, oof, the whole situation with her and Kukudio.
That whole scene when Humps was making them fight or whatever, that was so hard for me to watch.
It was like sickening to sit there and just...
It's like they were animals.
That was disgusting.
We keep learning more and more stuff about him, not only with that, but then later, I think it's episode 12, that we learn he made a different prisoner choose whether they'd want to eat their mom or their dad. It's like, what is up with this dude? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I know. I know. When are we getting his backstory?
Right? Hopefully never. I don't want him to be on next season.
No, I don't either.
I know. I can't stand his face.
But I'm fascinated to know, and I don't know, maybe we find out a little more in 13, but I'm like fascinated to know where he gets this disgusting...
I never even thought they'd give us histories of the guards.
No,
when they told us about Bailey's history in the next episode, that was interesting.
That was interesting. I will definitely follow up with. But yeah, we what else is going on? There's so much. It's like hard to keep it all together.
Well, so they're in that room because of them finding the body, and they call certain prisoners into the room, right?
Well, that was the great thing is they open, and that was an easy way to kind of end that little strike. That,
I said the same thing to Sterling. I was like, well, that was an easy way to
end
do that,
right? Yeah, because they were sitting there, and they're still standing, and Piper's basically like half asleep when we open on the episode, and then of course the alarm goes off because now they want everyone to go into lockdown. I was like, okay, easy way to get them out.
It just kind of like makes the whole thing even more pointless because they weren't really punished and like what?
But I think
the whole thing was like all that was for nothing.
So true.
Well, that part was, and I agree, but I think that was a good setup for the payoff.
Totally,
definitely,
yes, absolutely.
So, you know, at the end of the following episode, which is a whole other thing we'll get to.
Oh, I just got to chill with you saying that.
I know, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, right.
So they have the lockdown, and you know, then the rumors are starting. I mean, they were basically facts, but everyone's not really sure what was happening, and so the rumors are starting. The guards, you know, finding the body, and you know, then we're dealing with. Oh, I love the part when I was gonna say before we get too far ahead with Suzanne with the when she's checking the receipt, she's like orange juice.
Oh yeah,
yeah. An AR-15 rifle.
Yeah.
Okay, you look good. See you later. I'm like again, very much on the pulse of what's going on.
Yeah,
exactly.
Seriously.
But of course, then we have the stuff going on with Loose Check and
Judy
and Judy.
Oh my God,
that was too much.
That Molly scene is that too going ahead. That was crazy.
I mean.
But also Loose Check and Healy, they have that scene in 11 too, and you can see where it's really starting to affect Healy, and he just basically goes like, "Oh, I left something in my car," and then he like tears off.
And he drives
But
away.
like, what about the juxtaposition, if that's the right word, between like what they're going through, Yoga Jones, Judy King, compared to all the other inmates?
Right.
Yeah.
They're not even, they're so in their own
so
world.
in
They're
their
not
own-
affected
literally.
by the lockdown or that
No.
the fact that there's a dead body on the premises.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
they're just
People
gonna
are being questioned.
take some Molly and have a threesome. Like,
have a threesome like
That's
nobody's.
the Judy King way.
And drink your fancy seltzer water.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, so you have that going on, but it was fascinating to kind of see Healy too really internalize everything.
Right.
Well, he finally realized, holy crap, she admitted to me that she murdered someone, and I just said she was crazy.
And he was
and
like, I know everything that happens here. And now it's kind of realizing that he is actually very terrible at his job.
Yeah. And then feeling like, that he knows all this, and now it was so much for him to have to deal with. And he did such a great job in these 2 episodes because you could really see it in his face.
It
you
was
could
dark.
see
It was.
him kind of carrying the stress, and it was like,
He gave it. It's like he gave up.
Yeah.
I was watching. I'm like, Emmy. Like when I saw
exactly.
it was just so like you
Even
just saw
Lolly
it.
too.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
That scene was so
But
sad.
it's just like, Lolly was his case that like he's like, oh, I'm making a difference. I'm doing some good. Like finally, I've found a calling.
And I think that
then
was
for
his
that
connection.
to be blown up in his face.
Right. The connection with his mom, and he kind of had a
Right.
relation with that, and feeling like maybe I think for him it felt like he kind of could right the wrongs of the past with his mom in a way too. So he had double the kind of stress of that, and then realizing that he had done nothing, and it was devastating for him. But it was very dark to watch him.
Yeah.
Seeing him walk into the lake after he called Katya. That was with the moment it rang, I was like, oh my god, it's her.
Yeah.
What?
Well, he wanted it to be
He
her.
wanted it to be her.
Of course.
And then when it's Litchfield, he's like, shit.
Yeah,
Should've
well,
just kept
and
going.
it was interesting.
Just stay in the lake.
I thought it was actually going to be him. Like he was going to be the one. I was like, oh, is this the character that's going to die off this season? When I was watching that, and I really thought I was like, oh my gosh, here he goes. Like this is it. And I'm like, oh my god. And I was already like feeling. Remember watching him from episode 1 of season 1 and seeing him in there.
That scene, I mean, I had a feeling he wasn't going to die. Somebody was going to call his work, but I feel like that ring was kind of a way for him to redeem himself finally.
Yeah.
Like he had to tell everyone it was Lolly. He had to do his part, his job, even though it was so hard for him. That was his way to save himself.
Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully from now on he'll be stronger. And
You see his face kind of like like this whenever he looks at his phone and he's like, holy crap, I was just in the lake about to kill myself.
Right.
So
And then when he tells Piscatella that he's like, "Why are you wet?" and he said, "I walked in the lake," and he said, "Oh, okay, cool," or whatever. I was like, "What?"
Piscatella, man.
he does what he
taking
wants.
charge.
Yeah.
I can't stand him.
Oh yeah, he's totally. Taking
I was
over.
so angry at him. Well, I've just been angry at him constantly, obviously.
Yeah.
But whenever Caputo goes in to fire or to lay off Humps, whatever it was, And then he's basically like, no, you're not doing
these
that.
Are my people.
But then Caputo just laid down. Like, he didn't even fight back at all.
Well, what
That's
would
the thing.
he do
What
in
could
that
he do?
situation?
Yeah.
He was totally so weak and undermined.
Yeah,
That's what's so weird and it's kind of scary to see because I want Caputo to be in charge. I want him to be in action.
I mean, I liked how he went in there and did take charge, but then when Piscatella came in and completely shot down everything.
Yeah.
But then
Usurp the
where does
power.
he go from here now? Like, unless he literally has a hiring spree of guards, he's just not in charge. Now that this happened in front of all the other people, he has to, right?
Well, I'm going to be fascinated what's going to happen later in 13
I know.
because you see the women turning against him too. I'm like, he's making a bad image for us gays.
Yeah.
I was excited to have an openly gay guard, and now he's like ruining it for all of us.
Yeah.
By his
maybe he'll show his
power.
history.
I thought the conversation with him and Red when he was interrogating Red was interesting because Red kind of poked at him like, oh, well, why are you here? If you think you're this like FBI like detective, but obviously you ended up here for some reason.
Right.
So what are you hiding? And I was like, what is he?
That
I
killed
know.
his ego, didn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh god, but that
She
whole
called him a
scene-
fairy.
Yes, she did,
Yeah.
and she's like, and she just called him out, and oh man, I was just loving. Like her sassiness too, like she was like, what,
I loved
that's
her
Red.
acting in that
Yeah.
scene.
Me
Like
too.
her to act like she didn't do it. It's like acting within acting within acting. It was great.
that
It
was so great.
brilliant.
Yeah. What did she start out? She's like, oh, was it he or she?
Right.
I know.
Yeah, trying to be-
I yeah.
It was so good, but then when he asked, he's like, "Do you have anything for me?" And she was basically like, "Oh yeah, taking aspirin helps reduce heart attacks, but taking too much can be toxic." It was
I love that part.
I was thinking
witty.
like how he held back from her because he obviously doesn't care. He's let these guards and COs treat these women horribly.
Right.
So I was surprised that he actually held back himself from
Yeah.
doing anything to her because I thought, oh, he's gonna like slap her, or he's gonna do some kind of physical thing with her because she was just really giving him such attitude. But that was such a great scene.
I think he knew he like needed her
Yeah.
for information or something.
Yeah,
because I thought he would too, just in comparison to how they've treated everyone else. Like, why would he not go off on this person who's sitting there calling him names and whatever?
Yeah.
But
And I love how Frida was like, I wasn't called
I know.
Frida has stolen so many
Coconut?
scenes for me this
I
season.
know.
Like coming out, I want to see her backstory
So do
now.
I.
too.
I know. Well,
Especially-
she was so funny about that. She was like, "Oh yeah, I did like what did she say? Like 4 murders in a year."
she's
And
like, I
she's
killed
like,
a cop
wait,
with
did
his
I?
own gun.
she's like,
or
"Oh,
didn't get caught for
or did I
that.
get caught for that? Yeah, that was hilarious.
too many murders to count for her.
She really has been stealing a lot of scenes in a really good way for me this season.
I'm definitely looking forward to learning her backstory.
Yeah, but also when Piscatella, just going back to that for a second, when Piscatella was talking to Red, and he brought up her backstory a little because he obviously went through her file.
Yeah.
And when he said, "Oh well, we found like 5 bodies
in the
cut up in the
freezer.
freezer." So is that what you did this
Yeah.
time? And then, but then he said something like, "Do you have no regard for human life?" And I was like, "You don't have any regard for human life. You don't even think these people are humans."
Exactly.
So I thought that was interesting. That was his argument, and he's
But
I
it
think,
was
very
because
hypocritical.
it was something that we didn't really deal with in her backstory.
Yeah.
About the murder. So that was fascinating. We got a little interesting insight. I'm like,
I kind of forgot that happened.
I'm
with
sure
her
that she
right,
was
because
covering up.
she was
for
covering up,
the
but
Russia-
exactly.
like her-
But we were kind of like, oh, that was sort of like put in the back burner because that was a couple seasons ago. So it's interesting that was brought up again. And I'm wondering if there's a reason behind that. If we find out anything else in 13, or if it's something they're going to
Hope
say
so.
for next season, because that was interesting, because that was something that wasn't really talked about for a couple seasons now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And I've often wondered how long she's supposed to be there too, because you think like, are any of these other women going to be released in the next season or whatever? It's just fascinating to know. But yeah, that whole scene was fantastic, and you have also everyone else being questioned there too. But yeah, what we were saying about Piscatella, just he overlooks all the COs and the way they're treating these women, and it's awful.
He just doesn't care.
No,
He just wants his jelly
doesn't.
donut.
They've just taken so much advantage over their authority.
Yeah,
It sickens me to watch it.
But
Because it
not
happens
just
in
in
real life too.
And just in terrible ways, though. Like, not in normal ways with okay, obviously the lineups and the feels, whatever they call them. The body checks.
Yeah.
Those are
Right.
terrible,
The frisk,
but like...
yeah.
Just thinking, like, the fight, that's just there's
Right.
no reason for that. That literally is just crazy when he's
Yeah.
like, you won't get in trouble, just somebody fight her. She laughed at you.
yeah.
Or stepping on Tasty's watch.
Right.
Or pulling
Like,
the
that's
chair
so
when they're
pointless.
sleeping. Stupid little pointless
I know,
things.
it's
That,
like
Yeah.
a little child.
And
so
he-
they really captured on that.
And the
really
part when he said, I can't remember his name, but when he said, don't try to work too hard or like don't overthink your job or whatever, when she was like, should we stop them from dancing because they were obviously like
Dixon.
yeah, and he's just like, don't over
don't
put too much energy into this.
And then he acted like he knew them. He was like, oh yeah, I'm from Memphis.
Right.
I know these. I'm like, really?
I speak their language.
Yeah, I was like, okay, guy. Yeah, Dixon.
It's so messed up.
Yeah, that was so wrong. Yeah,
How about, I can't think of her name for the life of me, but
Pennsatucky.
Not Pennsatucky, but the racist white girl with the blonde hair.
Oh, Sankey, or what is her name?
Oh yeah, the one that they call Sanka.
She had some she kind
Maria
of
calls her
a
that.
smidge, a little bit redeemed herself in this episode to me.
She did.
Well, only because she
bit.
was like, I mean, she did say, I don't want to fight a retard, but at
And
least
even
she
the next
didn't.
one, didn't she?
And especially
she
in the
didn't want
next
to
one
fight.
too. Yeah,
she did.
When she said some of the
did.
ladies are nice and everything.
Right,
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
that bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's still pretty darn awful.
Yeah,
She's
she's
awful.
pretty much the
You
worst.
have to get to know someone like a human, not because of the color of their skin.
Right,
Exactly.
there you go. Thank you.
But yeah, and then we have Caputo, who has had a good measured response as being the good steady leader. Again, we always go back and forth with him because he's definitely a flawed character. But he said any kind of we don't want to have any overreaction with how we're dealing with this, and he specifically gave Piscatella instructions not to do what he wanted, and he did the complete opposite. And then, of course, he goes to MCC headquarters, and they have what was it, Josh?
Trying to keep him.
Yeah.
The guy
trying
that's
to
help
keep him hush,
everything
yeah.
and keep everything hush hush for the
because they don't even care
the
about the
feds.
dead bot. Like, you know what I mean? They
No,
obviously
they're all
don't even
about the
care
bottom
about
line
right.
and all that.
And how about Linda from purchasing never even have been in
I've
a
been
prison
to jail.
before?
well, no, but the great thing was, again, Linda had that whole attitude, like she likes to hear things before everyone else. She's like, why wasn't I told about this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
because
why
you
would
work
it-
in purchasing?
Why would you
what does it
care?
affect you? Exactly.
Yeah.
Why does it have anything to do with you?
Linda
Linda from purchasing.
You just need to know.
Nothing. It's on an as needed to know basis. Yeah, and she's like, well, I like to hear everything before everyone else.
And it does make a huge difference, like realizing that she had never actually stepped
Right.
foot anywhere near a prison.
Which was amazing, because at first I was thinking, okay, yeah, Litchfield, and then when he realized she hadn't gone to any prison, it was like, really? And she's like, I haven't ever felt the need, it wasn't really, I didn't think it was necessary. Like, how do you do your job without...
Right. It just
going
goes back
in.
to the idea of none of the people at MCC thinking these inmates are
Right.
people.
Yep.
No,
Yeah.
they're just
Exactly.
numbers,
Yeah, just
and
numbers.
it's just about
And money, the
money,
profit.
saving budget, and
Yep.
and even more so, and it keeps them from realizing that these are people with real issues and everything. They're just like, well, they're numbers, and because they can't put a face to it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's easy for her to totally ignore that.
Yeah.
Awanda in the chat, I probably just said that so wrong, so I'm sorry if I did, said it was just really interesting to see the business side of prisons and how everything is about the
Yes.
bottom line and maintaining the budget.
Yep. It's
Well,
a business.
it is. It's like any other business, and that's why they call it the prison and industrial complex for a reason, because it is a big business. Because you think about, not only are these places privatized, but they're hiring all these guards and these COs, and they're hiring all these people to take care of these prisoners, and there's food. So you really learn about all the stuff that goes into it, and yeah, it's a huge business, and that's why a lot of times it's very hard to have alternate plans.
Yeah.
Not
That-
putting people in prison because they're big money makers for these
It's
small
shady,
towns.
manipulative.
It's very big
unfair.
money makers to incarcerate people. Absolutely.
And that's a good point too. Math says that's why she banned tampons, because like Linda, she doesn't think that they're
Right.
actually people.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you know what I mean?
And she's like,
it
if
was
I can save
purchasing that
money-
cut off the tampons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
a good point.
thanks, Linda, for
Yeah.
purchasing.
And and here's someone that, if anything, should be able to understand that.
Right,
As
exactly.
a woman would be able
Totally.
to say, like, why would I ever want to do this to, my fellow women? But you're right, because she has no concept of these prisoners as being people.
I hope they put her into contact with a prisoner on this show.
Me too.
Yeah.
Give her
Yeah,
a
she
more soft
definitely-
side.
She definitely
needs it.
definitely deserves it. We have Punxsutawney, Pennsatucky. I can always say Punxsutawney, like Phil, the groundhog. Pennsatucky,
And Nikki.
And
and
Nikki.
Nikki
Yeah.
having that moment again, which I thought was really,
I loved it.
really
Yeah.
sweet, and to see her character grow so much.
Oh
So
my
much.
God, has she grown?
I mean, it's incredible.
I think
And-
it was the next episode, but we're gonna talk about that scene with Boo too. That just shows so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny when
so
she.
mature.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which
Right, it was like
wait,
someone
what?
that I never would have imagined
Right?
would have gotten to this point. Who's,
I love
who's gotten to a place of clarity now, and I love that she made the puke basket.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was such a cute basket.
Because remember, she didn't have really a purpose for it before. She didn't know what she was going to do with it when she made it a couple episodes ago, and all of a sudden she's like, yes, I have a thing for it. It's the puke basket.
Because you would think Red is the one to kind of get her out of this little...
Yeah, but Red's a little distracted
she
right now.
She is,
Yeah.
so that's why I think Pets TV's a perfect character to
she is, because she also understands from being on drugs in the past, sort of what the withdrawal and how horrible that is, and is able to kind of be there and support her, and that was really sweet, and just for them to have that moment, and and then of course we have Alex dealing with Lolly and the whole thing of the body, and then they're trying to debate, because all the women are trying to figure out what do we do with Lolly,
right?
And
I mean, and it's like she's gonna go down for it anyway, and I think
Yeah.
Piper said that in the next episode.
Right.
But
Right.
because she actually did do it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
obviously Alex was involved as well. So it's like,
Right.
should they all go down for it, or should just Lolly take it?
I know.
But at least she was
Sacrifice.
Alex was about to do the right thing for a second, and then they were like, oh,
Yeah.
wait, it's
That's
too late.
true.
Because it would almost be like,
Yeah.
oh, are you really going to let this person go down for something that you were like directly involved in
Right.
as well?
Yeah.
But
That last scene with
But she
Feely and
ultimately
Lolly
killed
was,
him. Voss ultimately killed him. She she suffocated him.
Oh, yeah.
Because when she went back,
Right.
he was still alive.
Yeah, with a nose.
Well,
She
and
cut
that
his
was the
nose.
thing that was tough, because Lolly comes back and was like, oh, isn't he just a hologram? And and Alex like, no,
you
this-
saved me.
You saved my
Yeah.
life, and this actually happened. And
It just was looking like Lolly was getting better though. Like she was able to kind of
kind of
cope with whatever
Yeah.
her
right,
craziness.
which is why the end of the
it
episode made it
sucks
so
that-
much worse.
Well, she was like getting
Exactly.
better,
Yeah.
but then worse at the same time. I feel like she wasn't
Well,
having really any normal conversations anymore.
No, but at least it's sort of like you were saying, she knew that she was hearing voices,
Right.
and she was trying to deal with that, and so her safe space was her time machine.
Yeah.
Right.
That for her was a way to kind of cope with when things got
Now
tough.
that time
Yeah.
machine's a place to have sex.
Yes.
Yeah. And even at the end of the
better.
episode, she was still talking about wanting to time travel. She
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, we're just going to keep
Oh my God,
trying.
that
That
She was
moment
like,
with her
Healy,
and
are we
Huey.
traveling in time now? Oh my god.
She said, that's okay. We'll keep,
Yeah, I
We'll keep
know.
trying.
I'm like,
No, come on, don't do it.
And hearing when they took her into psych,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how she just started kicking and screaming,
she's like,
just
"Mr.
like
Healy."
hurts your
that
heart.
place is
Mr.
gonna make her
Healy.
crazier,
Yeah.
which is gonna suck.
Well, this is
That's
the
all I
first
can
time
say.
we've ever seen Psych, too, right?
Yeah.
Because throughout the
Yeah.
entire show, they've always been like, you don't want to go to Psych. You would
Psych.
much rather go
To Shoe.
Right.
Shoe, Max,
Anywhere else, you don't want to
right.
go to Psych. And to
Yeah.
see her put there, it's just so sad.
Yeah, that was just gives me chills too, because you hear the other woman screaming, and you see all the
Yeah.
issues going on there, and you're like, oh my
Yeah.
god.
So I wonder if we'll see Lolly again.
I hope to see her
You know?
development or how she gets
hope
worse.
so.
We'll see,
Yeah.
but
I know, because she's been a really great addition just in the past season and a half, so it's been great to have her. And then of course we have the comedic relief, like we were saying
Right.
earlier with Judy King, and them rolling, and Molly, and
Yoga
just-
had it. She was just evaluating her life,
That
her
was
feelings,
so
how she
been.
thinks she's
funny.
a fraud. Yeah, she has been.
She's
So
like, we're fraud in the
drugs
chat.
can bring out the true you, I guess.
Yeah. Oh my
Don't
god.
do
Yeah.
drugs, but
Don't do drugs.
Yeah, because they bring out the truth, so you don't want to know the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I mean, I was just laughing because they were just so funny, and Loose Check's like, oh, for two older women, you're both really beautiful, and they're
For your age.
yeah, for your
He's
age.
like, I should have seen this coming.
we all saw it coming though.
Yeah,
when
we
you're
did. All
yeah.
on a,
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely
Oh my
was
God.
happening,
Yeah.
but you kind of would hope that he wouldn't do.
Yeah.
That just was too much.
Well, it was just a funny scene to have that comedic relief with all the seriousness, and then you watch, Judy and Yoga Jones start to make out, and then he joins in, and I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. So it was good to have the comedic relief. I still want to learn a little bit more with Judy and kind of delve a little deeper with her, but I don't know if we're gonna have time now at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we learned this next episode, but she's going to be getting out soon. So
Which
it's,
we
Yeah.
which we
That's
knew she wasn't going to
true.
be there very long. It was sort of
Right.
like the Martha Stewart, a couple months in, and the fancy, and then she's
Yeah.
out. But I want to know more. But
Right.
yeah, and before we move on, are we forgetting anything else here? I just want to make sure, because I know we have a lot to talk about for 12. And we
There
don't
was
have a
that
lot of time.
one small part where between Coates and Bailey, where you can see that Bailey's obviously already starting to feel a little guilty about
Yeah.
things. He's like, "This job
Yeah.
like ruining me?" And Coates is like, "Well, I'm fine. Like, I haven't noticed anything, but I did wake up without pants once, and that was when Boo and Pennsatucky were gonna do a thing, but
Stick
they
the
didn't.
broomstick
But
in
like,
his
he obviously didn't know that. He
No.
just thought he woke up without pants.
Well, we
Yeah.
see Billy enjoying his job so much, you know, and I think the next episode kind of gives him a wake up call. Like, I think it's gonna crush my happiness. That was interesting. And we get Sophia, or her wife at least, don't we? That scene.
Oh
Was
yes,
that in this
with
episode?
Danny. Yes, where he walks out and. That's a good point because I didn't want to forget that, and I was going to roll that into 12. But yeah, he basically when he walks out, when Caputo walks out to the parking lot, and then Danny shows up with his dad, and like here's Crystal, and the wife of Sophia, and here's the picture that you were saying she wasn't there, and that's when things kind of change quickly for her,
Right.
in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, we don't want to forget about how serious that fight really was that Holmes had orchestrated, and that was awful. I mean, Suzanne, because Suzanne has her triggers, and she got her trigger, and then she ended up beating the crap out of her, and that was awful, really, just watch.
She almost had no choice. Cucudio, was not going to leave her alone at that point.
Right.
He was instigating her.
But that was a trigger, and she just went off on a...
She whooped her.
I basically said beat the crap out of her, and that was
such a hard scene to watch.
Really
that was a really hard scene to
really
watch,
hard to watch.
as a lot of these 2 episodes were, which is so much kind of darkness and oh my gosh moments that
it was probably hard to film for the actors.
Right. And then I was going to say amazing acting, just on everyone's behalf.
The mindsets they have to get into before they shoot that scene.
It's just
That's
crazy.
draining for their emotions.
And even Maria, just her small part in that whole scene, just from start to finish of that kind of escalating. She's really impressed me, especially the past several episodes.
She really has, because she's definitely taken on that
leadership, badass role.
Role for sure. So we should get on to episode 12 on the animals, because I know we don't have a ton of time.
Animals.
Finally, the animals, and boy,
that makes sense.
Woo, man. But it was interesting what you were saying. We got a backstory of a guard. So it was interesting to see Bailey. And
as kind of boring as it was.
I was going to say, I thought it was pretty pointless that we saw it.
I thought it was too, but maybe just kind of setting it up to then go to some of these darker ones that we have to go with Humphrey, with Humps, and maybe Piscatella, or whatever's going to happen. I don't know if they're even going to be around after episode 13. But the point is it was a different perspective, and it kind of brought into focus some of the things we've talked about in the past of just that fine line between, with Loose Check and with a lot of these other COs, of the good and bad.
Yeah.
They basically do the same thing that these women do.
I was just going to say.
But they weren't caught.
Yep.
Right.
And
literally in prison, the guards were having fun with them. We're just kidding. Get out of here.
Exactly.
And he's but we did pot too. He's whatever.
Right. So you
So
see
lenient.
that see that fine line with them, and you see he was just sort of gets caught up in the whole high school hijinks in the small town, and
you just kind of learn that he's always been unambitious and just just kind of lingering around, not
with
really
his
having
friends
a purpose of sorts. He doesn't even know why he's at Litchfield.
Right. He doesn't have the best circle of friends, so he kind of just goes along with them.
Whatever they're doing.
You see them with the water tower, but you also see that he's a sweet kid, and he's honest, and he means well.
Right. All about him egging Frida.
I was just going to say.
That was hilarious.
Because he felt bad about it afterwards.
Yeah. Well, he felt bad with all the stuff, and then I thought the whole scene after they got caught and they were in the county jail there, and that cop was just a little jerk with him and everything, and then he thinks he's going to be stuck, and then he basically still admits to doing pot afterwards.
Yeah.
He's like, we smoke pot too.
Yeah.
And,
I think the whole point of the backstory in general is to show that he's an innocent guy.
Yeah.
Obviously he's, okay, you drank in high school, blah, blah, blah. None of those people are in Litchfield for smoking pot or drinking like it should have been, of course. But I think that was the point of it, to show how innocent he is because of what ends up happening to him.
And the fact that it's him of all the guards that is responsible for what happens at the end.
After Caputo said that.
Yes.
Right, and especially after Caputo said that.
No,
should have ran out of there when Caputo said that.
Exactly. So I think that was part of the way, but also kind of showing, I think, in general, just with the guards, and he was obviously, because of what happened at the end of the episode, it was a good way of knowing that he was just, a sweet kind of, not the most smartest tool in the toolbox there, but that he kind of get caught up with his friends, and that he meant well.
Right.
Definitely.
He didn't follow the guards who were treating the woman so badly. He would have probably with his other friends.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he
Right.
kind of followed their footsteps.
Yeah.
Maybe it shows a little bit of maturity on his part, and he might get his act together.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And go back to school.
Unless he's permanently scarred.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless.
No, but that, and that was the thing.
Unless he changes things and takes leadership.
True that.
True.
It's just going to be interesting to see how they cover up or react to what happens at the end. Yeah. Like, should we go ahead and talk about that?
Well, I was just saying, before we get to it, I was just going to say, because we do start to realize, because I was going to say we have So-So and Pusaid using the time machine. And I thought it was cute, too, because she's like, in 10 years from now, we're really old.
Wait, I know, right? I was like, so when you're like 30?
I know, right?
What do you mean? But it was cute, you know, talking about what their future would be like and talking about, you know, she wanted to go to Fiji and the fish violation. And it was just cute and kind of like had a nice little break from all the darkness that we
It is nice to see So-So at a place, because like a few episodes ago when they were kind of she was struggling with, well, I don't know if this is something that I would do outside of here.
Right.
And so this episode particularly, they were definitely setting it up for the end to even be that much more crushing. Exactly. But you can see that So-So just like genuinely has come to a place where they're happy together and they do want to have a future together and they're thinking about their future.
About that,
Pusaid gets the Judy's number.
Yeah.
Whether or not Judy's genuine with giving her a job offer, it's
number.
like at least
she networked like crazy.
It seemed like she was. I think she was genuine.
I feel like she was
me too at that moment.
Because she even said, "My assistant Galen will help you out," and you know, she's like, "That's my real number. It's not the fake one that I give out to people."
I feel like she would.
I feel like she would have too, because what does she have to lose, kind of thing?
Yeah.
You know, why not? Because she knows
and it's another
that,
thing on her resume that she helped someone at the
exactly
former.
It looks like a positive thing. It like helps her out because she's all about helping herself out.
And it's that image,
for her. Exactly. So to me, I felt like it was a legit thing. But then this is the episode where we realize this is even though how horrible Humps is, it's a way of bringing all the women together from all the ones that are kind of split along racial lines and everything else, to finally have sort of I want to say a common enemy, but like have a common goal to drive them back together. So in a weird way, it was good to see that they could be able to work together now.
Kind of at the end.
Kind of, yeah, for this. But as we are going through this episode, that they're able to work together and kind of put aside their differences because of the greater good of this asshole guy. You know?
It's like what Tacy said. She's like, the enemy of my enemy ain't my enemy, right? And I'm like, so true. Well said, Tasty.
Yeah. So that, in a way, kind of made me happy, even though he was such a asshole and it was such a bad reason for it. But it was finally bringing these women together that have been so torn apart this whole entire season, which was good. And of course, the other huge thing is finally Sophia gets.
It's back, and no one really notices except for Gloria.
Yeah, I know, and I thought that was such it was really kind of touching too. That was great. You know, she talks to her in the bathroom, and you can see that, you know, Sophia still has that hard shell. And, but it was great that she actually was there to kind of take care of her.
Right. And helps her kind of get her wig back together.
Yeah, she kicks the girls out.
She kicks Maria out, and then that was like, oh my God, that was so touching.
It was really, that was a good scene.
And she takes the wig out and she's brushing it.
Yeah, she's definitely going to have to come back. Like, back to her old ways. She better.
Yeah, that was, but that was definitely a really touching scene, and again, something that we needed after kind of all the doom and gloom, and after what Sophia's been through, to have at least somebody in her corner. And that made me think, I'm like, I wonder how long Sister's going to be down
I was thinking that too,
You know, because
she's still down there.
She sacrificed so much. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm like, how long is she going to be down there for?
Probably some
I'm sure Sophia, once she gets her kind of back in it, she'll probably work to help
get
Sister.
I hope Sister went there for her.
Yeah,
exactly. So it was nice to see the women that were kind of there for Sophia.
Watching out for each other.
At this very kind of low point for her.
Yeah, I think they realized, since all the guards are against them and abusing them and all these stuff, that they kind of really have to rely on each other to protect each other, and, you know, even if they don't like each other.
Right.
And they go right for the big head. They say, we got to go for Piscatella.
Well, Maria points that out, and that's exactly what she did with Piper.
Yeah.
She's like, you got to go 2 steps above, and when she took Piper's business, the whole situation down.
Exactly.
Because she took out the leader.
Because she's right, and she knows that's the one that's basically in
running
charge of,
everything.
Of all these CEOs. So if you want to make the change, you got to go to the top and make the real change, because it starts there. Yeah. And so that was actually really smart on her part to do that. And it was just, you know, we were dealing with I just lost my train of thought because I had the whole thing about Piper and Alex.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, together again.
Yeah, which
They're doing it again.
Never saw that one coming.
Which I just I'm still in that camp of like.
We know you're not a huge fan.
Oh, you're not a huge fan. Oh, I didn't know that.
I was a fan that it happened without drama. Like, it wasn't a huge thing around it. It was just like, okay, all this stuff is going on in our lives right now. Let's just, like, we've had this relationship. Let's just
That's
when
true.
it happened.
I think the show paced their build up pretty gradually and
it did
and made sense.
It did, but it just feels like the whole back and forth thing has just driven me crazy. Obviously, we feel like this is the way it's going to end up being, that they're going to end up together or whatever.
They're doomed
that's
to be
sort
together.
of, like they said.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the whole premise of the show and where it goes back to, but it's just the on again, off again, on again,
Hey,
off
and
again,
I like
on
this
again,
Piper, not the weird Piper that I'm
Exactly.
so this
is
is
much better.
Piper's
I'll take it, whatever.
Definitely in a better place.
Yeah.
However, their whole on again and off again thing is driving me nuts. But yes, you're right. It was like the pacing was good. It didn't feel full of drama, and it felt a little more natural.
Yeah,
right. I was gonna say, and I don't feel like they focused too much time on it. Like
No,
they definitely
just
gave
enough.
the other storylines the
Yes.
shine.
Yes.
So.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because there was so much other stuff going on. I was like, do I really need to see them get back together again? But
Yeah.
At least as fast it happened, we know they're going to be together forever. Okay.
For now, until they break up again next.
Until they're out of prison, then
Don't be
things
such a
change.
cynic.
Until
So they break up again.
Piper
Season
might go
5,
back to
episode
men.
2.
Yeah.
Piper, she's not a full-out lesbian.
Yeah,
True.
That's true.
As
There's always
opposed to
Larry.
Ross, so she's
There's Larry.
Larry.
No.
But speaking of the
like
in and
Larry.
out of prison romance, Morello, you have her.
Oh my
with
god.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Vinny.
Yes.
Oh my god! And then
I wonder if she's if she's going crazy, or maybe she's right.
But see, so whenever she was talking to Vinny on the phone, I was like, oh, she seems crazy. But if the way that her sister was acting, it definitely would have made me a bit suspicious too.
But
If he was chewing caramels, I would have an alarm ring.
Right, it's like out of all these things,
Yeah.
after my sister was just like, oh, he's so great. We did this, this, and that.
Right,
And then he's like, caramels? I'd be like, what?
I don't know. I felt like he seemed pretty genuine, though. He was
He
like, I
did,
don't
for
get it.
sure.
I don't think anything happened.
Well,
but then
yeah.
when she just goes back to the table and is like, we're thinking about having a baby, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay,
Right.
she's crazy.
Well, it goes back to the way she was back in season 1 and with that, with Christopher, But I still wonder what his deal is, because there's something about him that we talked about before that I still don't. I don't know.
See, he seemed more trustworthy than her sister did. Her sister's the one that gave me the suspicions. I was like, oh, then probably not.
I feel like there's something with him too, though.
Yeah, there's got to be. I mean,
There's
it takes a certain type of person to marry someone that you don't know inside a jail.
Exactly.
And has he never asked her, like, why she's there? Because if
they
she
were
said I was
pen pals.
stalking
I'm sure they were
so
talking about
I'm
it
sure
in
they
the
know,
notes.
and I guess we're supposed to assume that they know.
Yeah.
But it still made me feel like, okay, really? Like, there's something about him that I don't quite get either.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for that. But yeah,
He's always
We
in his
definitely
room
need
when
more
they talk.
there.
No,
There's
but
a lot
she-
happening.
She
Can't have his
definitely.
mom around.
He lives with his mom.
Yeah,
She definitely went quite extreme, though, like you were saying.
Yeah.
It was back to her season 1 self, where
Right.
she's like,
She's like shaking.
yeah,
and
and she's so
Yeah.
jealous
tears.
and
Just really jealous,
ugh,
yeah.
But she'll
crazy.
have Nikki to fall back on if anything
Of
happens.
course.
I think.
Well,
Maybe
she kind
they're
of
meant to be
She
together,
kind of already does,
Oh,
so
yeah.
she kind of
True.
falls right back with her again, and
Yeah.
later on with at the scene at the tables there. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, man, I totally forgot about her and her craziness too.
So the final scene, the lunchroom scene, I was happy that Red was the reason why everyone started to like really stand up, because they
Yes.
talked about, like we said, they talked about all getting together, but then it just quickly fell apart. So she's the one who
She's
she
the
kind of was
catalyst.
like the common,
Yeah.
Obviously Suzanne was what made it go crazy,
Right.
but I was proud that everyone like stood up
Stood
for
up for
her.
her.
And
Well,
it was Blanca that did. It wasn't
Yeah.
any of her people.
No, exactly. It was awful, because here she is so exhausted. And
And
hasn't
he
been able
pushes
to
her to
sleep,
the and
and he pushes her.
pushes her.
Yeah, and he basically says, you need to get back to work. And
Right.
everything.
And how about our girl Hapakuka?
Yeah.
This is all her idea.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
I know. Our little
She
cute
represented
Jolene.
the others on the show.
Jolene. But that was great to have her basically take over in that whole meeting.
Yeah.
And say, we need to do this kind of strike thing, and they were the ones that like, let's take them out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when everyone
That's-
stands up on the
yeah.
tables there at the end, she even she says, "This is
Yeah.
what we're doing. This is the
Right.
point. You need to just resign. We're
Yeah.
not going to get violent. We're just going to stand here."
Until
So she
she's
like
controlled.
laid it
I
out. I
love
was like,
that
"Yeah,
scene.
she."
That
Me
was
too.
That
When
was
the audience
such
slowly rose up.
Yeah,
And we
each
see
and every,
so
because I
powerful.
basically because I had it out like who's getting up next, who's
Me
the person
too,
standing
yeah.
up, and like,
And when everyone's standing, you see Pusey and Soso make eye contact. So I was
And
glad
then
that they had
they had the
a
moment
moment
that she
of
mouthed that I'm
being
sorry.
together.
Right.
Yeah,
Both
they
were-
like made up very
silently, but it got the point across.
Exactly.
But before we get there, I was going to mention too, we had that scene with Caputo and Fig too, which was like,
wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For once, I liked her.
I did too, and I hated that I did.
And I said because we sympathized with her.
Although I love
Caputo
Alicia
did.
Reiner, she was out here. We had a great interview a couple seasons ago. But yes, I actually liked her, and it made me upset that I liked her.
We always hated her just because, but now that we see what's happening to Caputo while he's in this position, she's like, oh, they broke you too.
It makes more sense.
So that's why she is the way that she is.
They might team together.
So much more sense.
Well,
that would be smart.
I think
there's so smart.
I think there's two sides to it too, because she was that way because of being with them, but also she had the husband who was gay, and she had a lot of other issues that kind of made her. Yeah. And I think for her as a woman, she felt like she had to be, a powerful woman, and that was the way she had to behave. To take charge in a prison full of women and have the respect of people. So we did I felt like that was a big turning point too, to learn a lot about her.
And we also saw Boo forgive
Boo and
and get her revenge on Coates.
Yeah. So and basically tell Coates like
don't mess with her.
Don't mess with
her. Only Boo can get away with smacking a guard.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, are we even?
Well, because he knew.
Yeah, he knew
that, and she meant business too.
Yeah.
And I love that she was again standing up for her friend and saying, no, this can't happen again.
Very great friend,
shout out to Hanan A. He says, I'm actually watching the show from Saudi. It's 6 a.m. here.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is 8:01 p.m. here.
Yes, that's right. It's now the future.
Yes.
6:01 on Tuesday morning. So of course, we get to that end scene, which already was very powerful because all these women are standing up and basically saying no more, and Piscatella has to go. And we've already seen the way he's now kind of become this crazier, more like, dictator, basically. He's taking charge and basically made Caputo just a little puppet of his.
He did, yeah.
And he's just getting more and more powerful, and we see what's been going on this whole season, the way that the guards and COs have behaved and how out of control it's gotten. And of course, now we have the whole incident there that leads to the very end of the episode here, which I was not expecting. I know some people had some spoiler alerts.
But we didn't really know how. I didn't know how.
Right. I just thought that
is so wow.
I definitely didn't think it was going to happen that episode. That's why I was so surprised by it.
I'm happy this happening didn't happen 13 and then we're just left
and it was to fade to orange, and then we had to wait
one more episode to kind of see what happened and what the reaction is. That scene though, just especially with Tasty. So I mean, the fact that it's Bailey who has obviously his knee on Pousse's back, who is trying to calm down Suzanne, who's having a fit, because we didn't even talk about Suzanne this episode, but she was in just a blank, or she just responded the way her, to what happened last episode with Cucudio.
Because she was so shaken from that.
Yeah, she was so shaken, and so then
she just sees the guard coming at her.
Yeah. This was another trigger, and so Pousse was just trying to calm her down, and then Bailey gets Pousse and essentially just cuts off all her air. He smothers her.
Chokes her out, and I was like, oh my god.
And of course it's Bailey.
And of course it's Bailey. Like I know, you would think it'd be any of the other ones.
The innocent guard.
Yeah.
And not all the people who could have been with Pousse during her last moments, Tasty, because that kind of brought me back to their relationship when they were so close and they would hang out, and they even had like the library.
Because no one is even paying attention to Pousse, because he doesn't even notice that he's like strangling her because he's trying to get Suzanne off of him. But Coates notices, so he goes and pulls her off. It's obviously too late, but Tasty sees it from across the way.
God,
that whole scene, I just tear.
I was too, because I was watching him hold her down. I'm like, no.
And she's like, kill.
And Pousse, out of all of them, she's the best.
She is.
To kill off such a fan favorite is, I mean, that's always just
and
heartbreaking.
Tasty is so uplifting. I wonder how she's going to be reacting in the next episode.
If she's
going to go crazy.
The bitter one now.
Everyone's just shocked. I feel like because the conditions have been so bad, but for it to end like this, like for something this extreme to happen, I think everyone's just kind of shocked. Because you can see when they circle around her, they're like, wait, what? This was supposed to be a peaceful protest. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was.
And they didn't even show So-So. They didn't even I wonder.
Yeah.
But that whole thing was devastating because after you were talking about it, you were just feeling like there was going to be so much there and so much promise as she was trying to get that job with Judy, and just to watch that at the end of
they were definitely setting it up for her to be the heartbreaking Yeah.
So now it's going to be extra dark for 13, the final episode.
Yeah, and we'll have a full hour to talk about one episode.
We will, one episode, so we're not going to be running through, but man, I can't even imagine. We don't really have time to go into any kind of predictions, and there's so much that's going to happen, we know.
We'll just wait and find out and watch it.
I just can't wait to see what the response is to this. If it'll actually, maybe some justice will be served, or they're just going to cover it up. You know,
I'll probably find out tonight when I get home.
I know. I cannot wait.
Not about an hour.
And for everyone else, we will be back next week with the episode, with the season finale of 4 already. In the meantime, where can they find you, lovely ladies?
Y'all can find me everywhere at April Whisenhant.
You can find me at Sterling Cates.
Find me at Kanika Lal.
And I'm on Twitter at sman80. That's sman80. And next week, same time, we will be wrapping up season 4 with episode 13. I cannot wait to see how it all ends.
Wow. See you there.
Ooh, I've got goosies.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.